Time PsychAdvice. She's ready to take you to new heights. All you gonna do is open your mind. Take a ride and a deep dive into your life.
Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking to you about Kirk Franklin cursing out his son. Now, in case you don't know who Kirk Franklin is, he is a world-renowned gospel singer. He's probably one of the best, most popular ones that there is out there. He's probably, I don't know if he's a minister too. My guess is that he is. And so it was really shocking for a lot of people when his son, his 33-year-old son, released a tape of him cursing him out in an angry rage where they were in an altercation, arguing with each other over the phone. And his son released a tape of him cursing him out, of Kirk Franklin cursing the son out. And so it has been a very controversial topic. It's been a very heated one. It's created debate. But I'd like to look at it from a counselor point of view. Like if I was helping this father and son, what advice would I have for them? What would I want to teach them? How could I educate them on looking at things a little bit differently? I'd like to look at it from the perspective of Kirk Franklin's personality type and his son, who could possibly be a borderline personality disorder or have borderline personality disorder, because that is a very difficult thing. When I look at Kirk Franklin, I see someone who has a very strong personality, a very dominant personality. I've heard interviews from Kirk Franklin and also his son's mother. I've heard both of their perspectives on their son, who's 33. They had him when they were 18. They were teenagers. They were not married. They didn't stay together. So can you imagine that? And I'm not saying that an 18-year-old can't raise a wonderful, healthy, amazing child, because many of them do. But there's also a risk that they won't, especially if they're not together, there's a broken home. How is the breakup impacting raising that child? What goals does that 18-year-old still have? Are they trying to go to school? Are they going to leave the child with someone else while they go to school? Or are they going to try to raise them? Are they going to be able to get a good job? Are they going to have to work 4 jobs to make ends meet? I mean, there's just a lot of things that can happen that could create stress, like extra stress in that situation, right? We all know when you go through a breakup, it is incredibly painful. I think you can also do damage to your children, and this can happen to anybody. But I know how I am. Like when I've had breakups, it can be very debilitating, and that's just facts. I know a lot of people try to, they talk a big game and I'm so tough, but the truth is that any type of breakup can be excruciating, debilitating. It can make it difficult to work. It can make you feel physically sick. So I don't know what was going on with them at the time. That would be my question. My question would be, what happened in your son's first 3 years of life? And if I could teach anybody anything, I would say to everybody, those first 3 years are critical. They are make or break years. No, we don't remember a lot of what happens to us in that time period, but a lot of life-altering damage can be done in that time period. If you have immature parenting, if you're not bonding with your kid. So my advice would be to anyone is that those first 3 years, and all the years, but those first 3 years, you don't need to be bouncing them back and forth to different people. You need to be there as much as you can. You need to play with them, talk with them, interact with them, hug them, comfort them. When they fall, let them know that you're there, that you love them. Are you okay? You're building trust, you're building a bond, you're teaching their brain that they are safe. Safety is so important. Bonding with a mom and a dad is so important. So you want to make that experience as stable, as loving, as kind as you possibly can. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't teach right from wrong and that you let them do whatever they want. That's also a part of good parenting. What parent is going to let their kid run across the street and get hit by a bus? What parent is going to let their kids touch a hot stove or pick up a knife? Or, you're protecting that kid. You're also teaching them right from wrong. You're setting boundaries, but it's in a loving, stable, I am here for you every day environment. There needs to be stability. And even if you have to put your kid in daycare, you still want to make sure that you're there every day for that kid. You pick them up, you have a routine, you are comforting them, you are there. A lot of times, and I've seen this where a kid is, this grandma has them one day, another grandparent. Can this neighbor keep them? Can a friend keep them? I'm not home for 3 days, or I'm still chasing after a guy, so I'm going to go spend the night with him, or vice versa. I'm a guy and I'm still chasing, just no stability. That's not good. So they say that he has been a very difficult son. Now, they could have done everything right, and there was just a genetic component in there that could have created something like borderline personality disorder. And not to insult anyone with borderline personality disorder, but it is a very difficult disorder to deal with. A lot of therapists don't like to work with them, unfortunately, because it is extremely difficult to heal and cure. Why? Because your frontal lobes have formed around, more than likely, some negative, traumatic, unstable experiences very early in life. And once that wiring is done, it's very hard to undo it. They're going to experience a lot of abandonment issues. They're going to be terrified of abandonment. They are going to have very unstable arguments. They're going to push your buttons. They're going to be constantly looking for their mommy or their daddy, trying to fill in that space, that emptiness, and it just never fills up, right? So they're going to start a lot of fights. They're going to argue with you. They're going to go into rages. They're going to have fits. It's going to be a lifelong, difficult relationship. And that is why, if you can prevent that from happening by being a very stable parent, then that's going to be your best option. Otherwise, you're going to have this, where they said they have put him in therapy for years, decades. It's not working. He doesn't want to change. He doesn't want, it's just, so now you got a problem. So if I were talking to, it's hard because everybody is looking at everybody else like this is your fault and you need to change. And I'm sure it's difficult to get through to Kirk Franklin as well. He has a very strong personality. He is very successful. He has had to be very assertive and aggressive to make it to where he is in the music industry. That's a tough industry. So the other problem is disrespecting a parent is not accepted. It's not acceptable. It's just not. And so if you're disrespecting your parent, it's looked upon as really bad. It's really frowned upon. And there are a lot of parents out there who are not going to accept or tolerate that. They don't care how old you are. So to get through to Kirk Franklin would probably be a challenge because he would probably be stuck on that point of view. But I would say the pattern that they have developed is not working. It is extremely toxic. And I think with a borderline, it's going to always be tricky and difficult. But you can wear yourself out taking that approach with a borderline, because you're probably going to always be screaming at them, yelling at them, fighting them, standing up to them. They don't care. They feel very empty inside. They want their needs met, okay? So one strategy might be to try to, what is this person's needs? How, that's what I would do if it was a younger kid. If it was a child, I would try to meet those needs as much as possible to try to correct some of that wiring, instead of fighting them, like give in to some of it. Okay, we're going to sit and read a book together. We're going to take a walk together. We're going to play a game together. We're going to try baking together. I'm going to give you lots and lots of hugs. I'm going to pour into you. You could try that strategy. But like I said, it's tricky because they're gonna challenge you, right? So with Kirk Franklin, I would say stop the yelling, stop the screaming. You're not giving yourself anywhere to go. If you start escalated at that point, you're gonna wear yourself out, and it's not going to stop anything. It's not gonna help. He's still gonna keep coming at you, at you, at you, at you, at you. He's not gonna stop because he's a bottomless pit of empty that needs to be filled. So I would say to make an agreement that I'm not yelling and screaming at you anymore like that. There will have to be boundaries set. There might have to be some, hey, this is what we're doing here. These are the guidelines. You break that guideline and I'm done. Like, I'm stepping back. I'm taking a break. I'm going to protect myself. So it's like you've created this monster. It's not, nobody wants to hear that they are to blame for any of this, but they are. And now you've created this monster. It doesn't really work at this age to just give them everything that they want. You still have to set boundaries so that they can try to be forced into healing and taking charge of their own life. He could try some strategies like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We can meet once a month or something like that. And we're going to do something enjoyable with each other. But I'm not arguing with you. I'm not fighting with you. We're just going to enjoy a good time. But the number one thing is stop fighting with him. That you're going to wear yourself out. That strategy is not going to work. And you at this point, a lot of damage has already been done. So you have to take a different approach. And that approach, screaming, yelling, cussing, it's not going to help anything. It's just going to make things worse. So I would advise him to do some studying on borderline personality disorder so that he knows this is what my son is dealing with. And that is also an extremely painful reality, because who wants to hear that their child could possibly have a problem like that? That will take years of acceptance as well. It's just a very painful process. But like I said, number one, stop fighting with him. Don't do that anymore. Set boundaries. It could mean, unfortunately, I hate to say, cutting him off. If you don't have the strength to do that, boundaries. What are your boundaries? And these are the things. This is what I will tolerate, and this is what I won't. I'm just not gonna do this anymore. And I just hope that his son will also reach a point where, if they can figure out a way to help him feel like some of his needs are being met, then great. So very difficult situation. That's just my 2 cents on it. So I believe Kirk Franklin is an ENTP. And I always say NTs, intuitive thinkers, that temperament is a very dominant, strong temperament. So ENTPs tend to be very bold, creative. They like to build ideas, and they have great mental agility. They pursue their goals vigorously despite any resistance they may encounter. So they are often called great debaters. If you're dealing with difficult people, be sure to check out my book, The Workplace Narcissist, when it's on Amazon. So bye for now.